In this video, we're going to look at hammer fist strikes as something that you might want to add to your self-defense arsenal. So what is a hammer fist strike? A hammer fist strike is when you use the soft, meaty part of the outside of your fist to hit your attacker. And there's two reasons why you might do this. The first is that it's a relatively safe way to hit someone without injuring your hands. When you traditionally punch someone, like in boxing, you're punching with the first two knuckles on your hand, but even then, your fingers are actually very fragile. And if you accidentally hit a hard target, like the top part of a guy's skull, it's very easy to break your fingers. The other reason you might want to learn the hammer fist is that it allows you to strike your opponent at unusual angles. If you're in a traditional fighting stance squaring off, then punches make the most sense. But sometimes you're in tight and maybe your hands are up in a defensive posture. And from here, it makes it very easy to come down on your attacker's nose with a hammer fist using either hand. Sometimes you're standing here and someone comes at your side. Maybe you're in a crowded bar or you're standing at the ATM. In order to punch, you would have to kind of square up and turn into the guy. But from right here, you can hammer fist to the side. It comes immediately from that position. And the other way would be if someone is behind you. So you're dealing with one guy in front of you. You sense some guy coming up behind you or someone grabs you, you can turn around and go right into a hammer fist. You can hit them before you square up. So let's look at the three most common hammer fists that you would use to defend yourself. The first is a forward hammer fist. And this is really useful because a lot of times in self-defense, someone gets in your face, you put your hands up in a de-escalating position like this, but if they still come at you, you could launch right into a hammer strike without having to move much at all. It flows very naturally from this position, and you could either strike with your rear hand or with a little bit of practice with your lead hand. Now there's a right way and a wrong way to add power to the strike. The wrong way is to take a big swing back, wind up, and boom, come down on his nose. It works. It's effective if you can land that strike, and it will have a devastating effect. The problem is that in a fight, whenever you wind up like that, you give your opponent a good chance to defend himself because he can see it coming. If he's rattled, if you've already knocked him once or twice and he's reeling backwards, yes, you could definitely wind up and finish him off with some bigger strikes. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're in the middle of a fight or the beginning of a fight where your opponent's paying attention to you, you don't want to wind up too much because he could duck or hit you first and do whatever he needs to do to rob that strike of power. Better to strike right from a neutral position wherever you are. Again, using either hand. The better way to generate power in your strike is to drop your body weight into it. When I strike, I'm not just using the strength of my arm, right? That has some power, and if I connect, it might hurt him. But if I really want to knock him out, when I throw that strike, I want to drop my power and turn my hips into it. That way I'm throwing my whole body downward and at an angle. So if I'm using my lead hand from here, I'm dropping my weight into it. And if I'm using my rear hand, I'm dropping my weight as I throw that strike. The side hammer fist is an equally useful and effective blow. So if I'm standing like this and there's an attacker on my right or on my left, I can immediately turn into him and give him a really powerful strike right to the head. And the way I do that is if you notice someone coming at you, you don't just want to turn your head because I'm very vulnerable to getting sucker punched. What I really want to do is raise this arm up, raising my shoulder and my elbow in a protective shell. And I want to kind of drop my head and drop my chin. So the first thing I'm doing when I practice this strike is I'm making a defensive gesture because I never just want to turn and see who's there. If someone's coming at me, the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of brace myself for a punch. But that defensive reaction sets up the strike. So that's how you should practice it. Your strike should first come up where you protect your chin and you protect your side of your face and you look to see what's there and then you turn into it and you strike. And you'll notice one thing I'm doing to generate more power. I'm not just raising my hand this way and then striking. I'm actually starting off like this, and then as the strike goes, I'm turning it. This rotation allows me to add more power to my strike. And this would be the same whether I was throwing a shuto to the neck or whether I turned it into a fist and did a side hammer fist, right? So someone is on my side, I'm not sure who it is, I kind of brace myself, I tuck my chin, I raise my elbow, and then I turn into it. And when I deliver that strike, I can do it without turning my hips. I can do it from right here and just kind of rotating my torso. But what I really like to do is step into it a little bit and turn through it. So if I'm standing back here, you can see me better. I'm here, someone is at my side, I protect my chin, I raise my elbow, and then I step in and deliver that hammer fist. And you'll notice that when I throw that, I'm not straightening my arm all the way. I'm keeping it bent. That protects my elbow from getting hyperextended if I accidentally hit with my elbow. And it also generates more power because what I really want to do is keep it bent and follow all the way through him, almost behind him like that. One thing you'll notice when you're practicing this is that at any time, if your attacker gets closer to you, you can just convert this into an elbow strike. It's the exact same motion. So I'm facing this way, someone comes at my side, I first protect myself, and then I turn and rotate, and if he got in close to me, it's a perfect elbow. It's exactly how I would throw a side elbow, just like that. But keeping that same motion now, if I move away, well, I miss the elbow, but the hand goes through. So what's great about this side hammer fist is that this one motion of protecting yourself and attacking can work at multiple distances. If he's close, I hit him with an elbow. If I'm farther, I get him with that fist. And by the way, even if I miss, I'm in a good position to follow up. So a lot of times when I practice this, not always, but sometimes, I'll throw that hammer fist and I'll immediately follow up with a cross to the face. Sometimes I feel like that robs the initial strike of some power, but sometimes I feel like 2 strikes is better than 1. If I think I'm going to miss, the second one will connect. That second strike has a longer reach because this first arm is bent, right? It's not straight. So from here, sometimes this is more like a clearing defensive move. If he's close to me, I can elbow him. If he's a little farther, maybe I'll hit him with the hammer fist. But either way, I can just be setting up that punch. Someone comes in close, just like that. Or I hit him with both. As with any good strike, power really comes from using your whole body and the rotation of your hips. So from here, the motion of my lower body is turning and rotating. That's where I get the absolute most power. I want to throw this hip here, the far hip, into him. And if I connect with any one of those punches, it's going to work. Finally, let's look at the back hammer fist. So this would be if I'm standing here, maybe I'm in line for something, maybe I'm oblivious, or maybe I'm dealing with one attacker and there's someone who comes up behind me. Again, I never want to just turn to see who it is because I'm really vulnerable to getting sucker punched. And I've seen so many videos where that happens. You don't ever just want to turn with your face exposed. So if someone is behind me that I need to assess as a threat, same thing, I want to protect myself. Before I look, I want to raise my shoulder, raise my elbow, and drop my chin, and then I want to get a good look of what's behind me. And I sometimes bring that other hand up as well as extra protection. But the main idea is I want to get this hand up to block a potential strike, but I'm also setting up my own strike. So I'm here, I notice someone behind me, I want to get this up, and if I see it's a threat, then I want to turn and turn that into a strike. I'm here, I see someone coming, I want to turn around and step into it. So I'm back here, you can see a little bit more. I'm facing this way, someone comes up behind me, I protect myself and look, and then if I have to turn in, I can turn around and deliver that strike. And this could have a lot of power behind it because you're turning your body, you're spinning it, and you're rotating it. And you're kind of keeping your arm a little bit like a loose noodle. So it's got a whipping motion. I don't want to be too tight up here, like, Argh. I'd rather have my lower body create the movement and create the torque, and I'll have a nice closed fist, but otherwise I want to keep my arm relatively loose so that from here, when I turn, boom, it should explode on the guy's face. And that could be a really devastating strike. The other way that back hammer fist would be useful was that if I were fighting someone and maybe I was trying to make an escape, or maybe one of my shots missed and my momentum's going this way, instead of kind of correcting and facing him square, I might just go with it and hit him on the rebound. And you see this a lot in MMA fights. So there's, a couple of strikes, maybe someone takes a swing that misses, and they follow it up with a back fist or a back hammer fist, because they figure, while I'm there, why don't I just use that momentum? Now, in general, I would caution you about ever purposefully turning your back on your opponent, because even though that strike can be very effective and it could catch him off guard, anytime you take your eyes off your opponent, you run the risk of things going very badly. He could use that opportunity to punch you, he could tackle you, he could pull out a weapon. As a general rule, you want to keep your eyes open on your opponent at all times. Even when he's punching you, even when you're ducking to get out of the way, you always want to keep him in your sights. This could be very dangerous because for that split second that you're not looking at him, he might grab you, he might try to put you in a chokehold, he might do something. But when you're in a real fight, it's dynamic and you can't stop and think too much. The best thing you can do is flow from one technique into the next. So if you do find yourself in a position where you can naturally go into a hammer fist, then I would take advantage of it. I just want to add one last point about how a hammer fist is different from a back fist. With a back fist, you hit with the back of your fist, and you see this in a lot of sport competition matches. The problem with a back fist is that, again, your bones on the back of your hand are very small and fragile, and if you hit something hard, you can break them. This allows you to get a lot of power with relatively low risk of injury. So I like a hammer fist better because I like knowing that I could hit something hard and I'm not going to damage my hand as likely. With a back fist, I feel like I could hurt somebody maybe, but that's going to hurt. Like even hitting Bob with a back fist, that hurts the back of my hand. Whereas I could do this and be fine. The other thing about a back fist is that the power of a back fist comes when you're doing this kind of wind-up motion. And for that, my elbow is down, right? My elbow can't be up. So if someone grabbed me, like I might flow naturally into some kind of back fist just to stun them because it comes quickly. The problem is that I'm not protecting myself. I'm very vulnerable. So you see, I'm even dropping my hand to make that back fist available. And that makes me vulnerable to getting hit. What I like about a hammer fist is that you first have to protect yourself. You have to have your elbow raised, right? It's a horizontal strike. So when you practice it, you get your elbow up. That's how you do the strike. I like the fact that having your elbow up provides two benefits. It provides power to your strike, but it also protects you from getting hit yourself. So you naturally defend yourself. With a back fist, you run the chance of getting hit yourself.